Welcome to the regular meeting of Council for Monday, October 27th at 7 p.m. Before we get started with the regular Council meeting, I want to acknowledge the yesterday's tragedy in Tofino. As a city, our deepest sympathy goes out to all those affected by the tragic loss of life off Tofino yesterday. We stand with the people of Tofino, surrounding communities, and especially the family and friends of those who perished. Our communities are bound together by so many connections and relationships. Our hearts are moved in this time of suffering. May all those involved in the search and rescue know our gratitude. Let us pause for a moment of silence to honor those who we have lost and who we now wish to remember. Thank you, everyone. We're turning to our agenda now. Are there any late items identified by councillors?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We have a last-minute delegation. You have the email item Delta 1 green sheet in front of you. We'll just ask council to allow the delegation to come forward and be allowed the time. I know it's a late item, but just ask for that resolution.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
All those in favor of permitting the delegation? Okay, carried. Any other late items, City Clerk? Okay, so then a motion to approve the agenda as amended would be in order.
I'll make that second that, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Thank you. And Council, you'll notice the absence of Councillor McClement and Councillor Paulson, and they're out of town today. That unfortunately is less Councillor Sauvé off on his own, so we can notice him much more clearly on this side. We have the minutes of special council meeting held at 12 p.m. and a regular council meeting held at 7 p.m. on October 13th. A motion to adopt those minutes would be in order.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. And this is public input period. This is an opportunity for the public to address council on topics of relevance to City Council. Maximum of 4 speakers for no more than 3 minutes each can be accommodated. Okay. Seeing none, then we're on to delegations. We have one specific delegation, I believe.
That will be Mr. Bertrand.
Mr. Bertrand? For a record, Mr. Bertrand, could you please just, when you get up to the at the front here, could you please give your name and address?
Sure.
Thank you.
Trevor Bertrand, 3925 10th Avenue, Port Alberni.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. My name is Trevor Bertrand. I'm a medical user of cannabis and would like to give the Council a little information on the subject this evening. The so-called medical cannabis on Upper 3rd Avenue is an illegal setup. Only your family doctor can sign the paperwork to access medical cannabis. The storefront model doesn't exist and is illegal. There are 25 licensed producers of cannabis across the country regulated by Health Canada. Them alone can dispense medical cannabis through the mail and only to the registered patient. The sealed container must be labeled as to how much THC, CBD content is in the dried cannabis, which is enforced by the Ministry of Health. Edibles are not available from the licensed producers and are illegal. Proper labeling procedures are not in place yet, but they are readily available without proper labels in the storefront model, which has caused unsuspecting adults and children to access and overdose. The cannabis in these storefront models is coming from organized crime, as they have no access to licensed producers and are basically storefront drug dealers. As a medical cannabis user, it is scary to think that purchasing cannabis at these storefront models is fueling crime in our communities. And I have some examples of proper labeling from licensed producers and from the storefront model to show the difference between legal and illegal. I have some of the product they have some of the product in them, so be careful. I have some gloves. They're not labeled properly, so I wish to show you guys. I have labeled from a licensed producer and what you get from the storefront. If I could pass that around for you guys. See the difference? There's some gloves if you guys want gloves, because they're really not sealed properly, right? We don't want any touching of the stuff. So this is how you get it from the storefront. Not labeled. Just like that. Let them buy yourself an ounce of each, just like that. But that's how it comes from the licensed producer. Like a pill bottle, sealed, with your name on it, across my name on it. But the date, just like a prescription. Exactly just like a prescription. That's how you get it. In the storefront model, just like this. There's an edible product. No labeling, nothing. I've actually wiped it out because when I got it, I put my thumb on it and then wiped it out. So now I don't even know what that is, really. Again, and there's another container, you can get it in the dispensary. And if council has any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you for coming by and all that. The legal aspect here, now never actually seen one. Are these card holders right now, and can they obtain this from a storefront, or is it?
Well, no, that's from the licensed producer, and there is really no card in place, Mr. Sauvé. Here's the application for Tilray, and actually how you have to do it. And there's actually really no card. You got to photocopy them before you actually send them off, or you really don't have a copy. The licensed producer has it on their file. You don't have any kind of card or anything that says that you're a medical user.
And it comes from the federal government dispensary.
Just like that, yeah.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what kind of product you're getting? Or?
Yes, it says right on the label there. That's from Mentrum. It's actually not a very good licensed producer. I've tried a few. That's their, I think, orange number 5. I mean, it's not even really a name of a cannabis. So it's kind of their, I call it Frankenstein cannabis, really.
And one last question, Mr. Mayor. It's not that I'm disputing I am disputing your expertise and all that. So the thing is, are you part of any organization or anything?
Yes, I'm the Port Alberni Cannabis Club.
Okay. And you only deal with the
legal federal government, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because you can't get it for anybody else, Dennis. You can only get it for yourself. You can't share your meds, just like you can't share your prescription med from Shoppers Drug Mart. You can't share them. It's the same thing.
So if you have your card, can you go at that storefront?
there's an old form, but I can go in with, say, teal race paperwork and get it at the storefront, yeah? If I have any other dispensary card from any other storefront, they honor that card.
But how
So
do
I-
you know what you're getting there?
You don't. You
That's-
don't.
And what would how would the cost compare between getting it from a government dispensary and getting it from a storefront?
As I've paid anywhere from $220 for 28 grams, and the license he's $150 for 28 grams. They do give compassionate deals. They do specials. They have particular cannabis that's less potent than others. It's different prices. So the most THC in that cannabis is going to be more money versus a low THC content cannabis.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions? Okay, Mr. Bertrand, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks.
Okay, Council, that brings us to unfinished business from last day. We have on unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. We have a notice of motion provided the October 13th regular meeting. Councillor Sobe, do you want to make this motion?
I'll make the motion and discuss it after if somebody's able to second it for me. That Council of the City of Port Alberni directs staff to provide a report regarding the use of potential regulation of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAV, or drones within the city boundaries.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, their discussion, Council? Councillor Sobe?
You have to look all the way down here. Pretty much this came to my attention many months ago, and I started receiving a lot of phone calls of drones in residential areas at nighttime and popping up in people's backyards. At first, I just thought maybe it wasn't justified or they're seeing things, but it's actually going on within the city. And the citizens that approach me have a certain concern about the use of it, the danger of it while it's up in the air in a residential area, if it's not properly controlled, falling down, who's liable, and all that. So I just liked, because I know there's other municipalities that do have bylaws into using this, and it's not necessarily just drones. It would be gas-operated or remote-operated airplanes and all that, is to actually ensure that the holder has care and control of such a device and maybe assigned areas. And also, the night use of having drones with camera and video, to me, is concerning without a proper permit. And I just wanted council to do some research and see what other municipalities have in plan.
Councillor Alberni?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I totally support the motion. I think it's an issue that's sort of come up over the past couple of years. You see a lot of other municipalities dealing with it. You see a lot of reports on the news about, drones flying at night and looking into people's hotel rooms or apartments or whatever. So, just seems like a good thing for the city to be able to get a handle on it and get a report back to us about what we can do better.
Thank you. Councillor Minions?
Thank you. Councillor Alberni pretty much covered it, but I guess I'll just look forward to a report to see what we can do about it. There's definitely a lot of benefits to drones, but as it kind of emerges, there's issues as well. So be interested to see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. So, on the motion, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Under staff reports, accounts, Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the certification of Director of Finance dated October 26, 2015 be received, and checks numbering 132749 to 132913 inclusive, and payment of accounts totaling $967,885.76 be approved.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. And from the admin assistant, we have a public hearing report for October 13th. may go on record as the fastest public hearing that we've ever had. Councillor Alamani, are you prepared to make that motion?
That the report of the public hearing held October 13th, 2015 regarding bylaw number 4888 be received.
Your seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. We have a report dated October 19th from the city engineer requesting council's approval for the complete funding for the Gertrude Street Bridge widening project over Cassuxis Creek. Councillor Munoz, do you want to make that motion, and then we can ask for clarification after it's been seconded?
That the city engineer's report dated October 19th, 2015 be received, and council for the city of Port Alberni adjust the funding for the Gertrude Street Bridge widening project, $249,500 plus tax, and approve the shortfall of $77,000 with $50,000 coming from the 8th All Street 3rd Ave to 4th Ave project and $27,000 from the gas tax fund.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a question?
I just had
Yes.
Mayor, I just had concern, is this that we went over budget on a project? Is that the simple thing?
City engineer?
Mr. Mayor, I think maybe I could characterize that as this Gertrude Bridge widening project had a couple components. One was a vehicle component, and then one was a pedestrian component. So we undertook the pedestrian bridge component last year. So if there was a thought that we had spent more than we anticipated, it was then when we did the pedestrian piece there. So then we didn't have enough money left over to do the vehicle piece, and this is what got me in trouble in funding the project that we have in front of us now. So it was the two-part over the 2 years, and so I've made a recommendation to defer the $50,000 from the Athol Street project, which is development-driven, and we don't see that going this year, and perhaps not next year. We don't have any indication of that. So I felt that would be a good source of funds, plus some money from the gas tax.
So we're going to take the $50,000 from the Athol Street project, but you have no idea when you're going to need that $50,000 back. Will it be in your budget next year?
I don't think it'll be in our budget next year. I'll review the project with our city planner. This particular project was anticipated 2 years ago. So in fact, we've been carrying that project forward, and the indications we have from the developer are in a pause situation. So I don't expect that we'll be using that money this year or next year.
So we can't tell the public when that development will proceed right now?
No, it's developer driven. It's definitely private driven, and we don't have any indication of when that particular project will move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is that the total amount of money that was set aside for that project?
Yeah. The developer had a piece, and the city was going to support the project with some storm work and some asphalt work. Yeah.
Okay. So seeing no more questions, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you, City
Thank you.
Engineer. And contrary to the way it looks at first blush, quad doesn't mean, it refers to the number 4. My first think was something that we run around in the bush on, but no, City Clerk, Harbor Road quad party agreement. We have a report dated October 20th from City Clerk requesting Council's authorization to enter into a new agreement for maintenance, repair, and administration of Harbor Road. We get a motion, and then if you've got questions, we can ask those questions. So, Councillor Sobe, are you willing to make that motion?
That the report from the city clerk dated October 20th, 2015, be received and council for the City of Port Alberni authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the Harbor Road Quad Party Agreement with Port Alberni Port Authority, Western Forest Products, and Catalyst Paper Corporation for a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2015.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Council questions? Then all those in favor of the motion? Carried. From Admin Assistant Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, we have a report dated October 20th from the Admin Assistant, providing a resolution for consideration at the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, AVICC, regarding increasing member levies from the Vancouver Island Regional Library. Councillor Minions, do you want to make the motion and then we can provide a little bit of background to that?
That the Administrative Assistance Report dated October 20th, 2015 be received, and Council for the City of Port Alberni direct staff to submit the resolution entitled Vancouver Island Regional Library Costs and background memo to the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities for consideration at the 2016 convention.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Minions, do you want to give a little bit of background to that?
Sure. We discussed this at our last council meeting, and we've been discussing it for a while. The costs of our library have seen huge increases over the last few years, largely just due to the model of the library system. Right now, the Alberni Valley, so just the Alberni Valley, not including the West Coast, is paying about $1.15 million a year for our library, and the reason for that is that's obviously far exceeds the cost to actually run our library. It's not to run our library, it's our portion of the Vancouver Island Regional Library system, and a lot of that is for other communities to update and build new libraries. It's a fantastic program, and we have a great library, but there's been a lot of concern about whether or not the library system is affordable to us, and if it's going to stay affordable to us given projected increases, which I think are about 20% in the next 5 years beyond the $1.15 million that's already being paid by the Valley. If that sums it up.
So over $200,000
Yeah.
in the next 5 years. And of course, that gets added to everybody's property tax. And people mostly just pay attention to the bottom line, not necessarily realizing that part of it's going to something beyond our control. Any further discussion, Council? Okay, then all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Council, we have before us a status report. Are there questions on the status report, Council?
I'll move that we accept the current status report be received.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. Which then brings us on to managers' monthly reports from the RCMP detachment. Welcome, Inspector Richards.
Thank you. Good evening. Before you use the police report for September, it's loud. We're halfway through the fiscal year, and last month I indicated and I promised I would update you on where we stand on our policing priorities for the year. With respect to crime reduction, that's all about reducing the impact and prevalence of crime in our community. And I said we have one target there, and we're well on our way to meeting that target. Mental health, it's all about reducing incidents of mental health and the prevalence in our community and reducing our calls for service. So we've achieved our goal of the 2 partnerships, but we've also got 2 new initiatives that we're working on and really trying to connect services with people. And so those we'll be out rolling those over the next couple months. Visibility and engagement, and for me that's kind of a catch-all. It's all about us being active and involved in the community. And one of those is patrols in our community, and that's by foot and bicycle. And the goal was 460. Perhaps I set the target a little bit too low. We've already hit over 500, so we're well over, and so it will be far in excess of that by the end of the year. And lastly is attending at different community events, and the goal was for 24. We're averaging 2 a month, and we're at 16, so we should meet that goal as well. And as lastly is traffic, both impaired driving as well as provincial traffic offenses. And you'll notice in the report, we've also made our slow down signs available once again this year. It was a great success last year, initiative that we brought in, so we've made those signs available again at our community policing office. And then for November, we'll have a new initiative focusing on speeding in the community as well as stop signs. And then for December, will be for impaired driving. So those are the 2 new initiatives that we'll have for traffic. We're trying to focus on different things in the community, not only ourselves, but traffic services from Vancouver Island. That's all I have for my report. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to take those now.
Councillor Sobey?
Just one question, Inspector Richards. Out of curiosity, impaired driving. We have many officers that are trained in recognizing symptoms of impairment involving with drugs.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so that is part of the training for the officers, and
There's a separate training. There's the one for alcohol, and then there's a separate training for, you're referring to what we refer to the SFST, which is for drug impairment. So that's a second training. So we do have some officers that are trained in that as well.
okay, great. Thank you very much, sir.
And if there are officers doing traffic violations on Johnson Road, would those be our Port Alberni officers, or would they be officers from outside of our community?
Be both. Johnson Road's a numbered provincial highway, so they do work on that highway, and every once in a while I'm able to convince them to expand there a little bit to add to what we can provide to the city.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Alberni?
Just wondering what your numbers are around drug enforcement in the community, if there's increase or decrease in drug activity in the community, or
probably about on average, a little bit below average, and for the most part, that's it's one of the ones that you never get a true number, because those are numbers only generated through detection and apprehension. So many go unreported or not observed. So it's a number that is really hard to put a number exactly what. But anecdotally, in the community, I don't think it's any secret that there are a number of people in our community that are suffering with different substance abuse problems and issues, and that relates into increased calls for service for our detachment. So and that's a wide range from alcohol to illicit drugs. They all have an impact socially as well as in calls for service.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Sobey, do you want to move accept?
Be providing information about current departmental operations be received.
Second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Inspector. Under Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to talk about one of the items that is mentioned in the report, and that's in terms of upcoming events, the Business Walks results. So I'd like to thank yourself and Councillor Sauve and Councillor Minions for taking part in our first Business Walks. We set for ourselves a target of 110 businesses on Friday, and we succeeded in connecting with 128. 77 of those did fill out the survey, and the other 51 were directed to a website, or actually a survey that's being done online. And we We'll be reporting out on the results from the walk in late November, early December. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues Davina Hartwell and Scott Smith for their participation in the survey, and Stephanie Stevens for her work on it. And from the Chamber, Deb Haggard and Chris Patterson and Bob Kangieser. And the province contributed a resource person for the morning as well, Kathy Lockman from Campbell River. So it was, I think it was an event well worth its while.
The reason why we got through so many was the city clerk wouldn't let me stand and talk and answer questions, but she kept moving us along. So.
Wise to do so.
Yes.
However, for the competitive in mind, Councillor Minion and Stephanie actually just beat yourself and Davina and Scott for the number that were actually done. And Councillor Sauvé and myself far outdistanced any other team in the surveys that were left for others to fill out.
You do agree quality is better than numbers, right?
Agreed. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of the other initiatives that are listed or any that aren't that you're aware of.
Councillor Minions.
Thank you. Just one quick question. When is the target date for the RFP for Clusa Haven Marina?
We
release
committed
that?
to council that we would have it released before the end of the year. There is no, I don't think there's any reason why we can't have it out by mid-November. We have the draft done. We've circulated it between staff members both at the Port Authority and the city. We just have allowed other priorities to eclipse the actual release of it. But I anticipate we could have it out mid-month, November.
Thank you.
Councillor Alberni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wondering, well, first, I'd like to say it's great to see that you have advertising on the ferries, and as you mentioned, ferries, Comox and Nanaimo Victoria airports, the new billboards, 2016 Vancouver Island Vacation Guide. I know there's lots of complaints that I've heard in the past that, there's nothing on the ferries. They don't know about us when they come into the island, so that's very nice to see that those investments were made.
Thanks for drawing our attention to it. It's an initiative that's done with Alberni Valley Tourism. So I partner with them, and they in turn partner with Vancouver Island Tourism. And I was actually privileged to an email that came from the company that actually handles the placement of brochures and information on the ferry. And they were asking Alberni Valley Tourism for another volume of brochures that we had on the ferry, and cited it as one of the most popular. So,
Awesome.
There are a number of myths about Port Alberni, and one of them is that we don't have any information on the ferries.
And go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing. Just the community energy system RFPs are closing next week.
Yes, November
so
3rd.
When do we get an indication of what those are, how many, or that kind of thing?
We can certainly indicate to council at its next meeting, November 9th, how many there were. But we will just be partway through the review process at that point.
Sure. Good. Thank you.
Councillor Alemany, back to the ferries, we've suggested to, you're familiar with the Yellow Jacketed Ambassador program?
Yes.
Yep.
So we've suggested to the Chamber of Commerce that they explore with BC Ferries the possibility of putting some of our Port Alberni yellow-jacketed ambassadors actually on the ferry.
Infiltration.
Infiltration.
It's
Yeah.
good.
So then you can distribute the information and have the face-to-face at the same time.
Can't ignore them.
You couldn't ignore them. Maybe we can even put some Port Alberni music on there and just liven things up a little bit. It can be pretty boring on that ferry, unless you have kids. Councillor Sauvé.
I just want to thank you very much for the business walk. Of course, I was privileged enough to spend a day with yourself, and I must admit I've learned a lot about economic development. A few things that number one, I would like, after deep thought and spending a couple of days about what we went through and all the small businesses, and I'm sorry if I embarrass you when I got totally excited about certain businesses that I didn't even know they were in that area. And that was in the corner, do you remember the Haven?
Haven Living on
Haven Living
Adelaide
and all
Street.
that. These are two small businesses that are just in the corner, surrounded by empty places, and it's amazing how much they just want to stay there and make it work. So to me, it just gave me inspiration. And one thing I might want to suggest to yourself and your department was the fact that maybe on time permitted on a monthly basis that during our website and all that, and that we do a small profile on each one of these little businesses. Just educate, and the tombstone data will be staying onto the website, and I think that's very important. Yes, it's advertisement for them, but yes, there are local businesses, and we really want them to survive. But again, I was flabbergasted, and I thank you very much for a wonderful day. You opened my eyes to many things. One thing I am concerned, that I want the public to know, is the fact that I asked certain questions that Pat wasn't asking on the questionnaire, because I became very curious, and I was actually asking the small businesses about how much rent they pay. And you would be amazed, storefront, how much money the private owners are asking for rent for such a small square footage place. And I might understand it's in the market and all that, but the thing is, in Port Alberni, paying $2,000 for a person that's just trying to start up a business, to me, is horrendous. But I just want to mention that I did discover that, and I didn't like that. But again, the economy is the economy, and when somebody's paying only $500 for the same square footage and the other one's paying $2,000, and the location's not, it varies. There's something that seems wrong to me. But again, I just want to thank you for a wonderful day and opening my eyes to a lot of things. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. The other business that was in the Adelaide corner there, just celebrating their 5th year,
Yes.
was Crystals and Angels.
Yes, and it is a fascinating story. So,
All right, Councillor Minions, you want to move receipt of that?
That the report from the Economic Development Manager providing information in current departmental operations be received.
Thank you.
Seconder? Seconder for the motion. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Deacon. Question for you, City Manager. It's not on the agenda, but it is. I'm thinking about manager reports. What does council have to turn its mind to for the upcoming budget discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very soon, as a matter of fact, and I'm planning to bring a report to council on the 9th of November with some options for council to consider, and looking for recommendations from council or direction from council on what you would like the public input process for the 5-year financial plan to look like, and for development of the 2016 to 2020 budget. So that will be in the next agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so council, if we want to have a radically different format or a very different format or different in any way, shape, or form, now's your chance to have input.
lower taxes.
We want, but even the format of how we discuss it and how we present it, if there's aspects of that budget discussion, as we've previously experienced, that we find painful, that we'd like to eliminate, let's see if we can do that. If we want to inoculate ourselves on some things, please do that as well. It's a good opportunity to think about it. And maybe particularly if we want to go through the process and have everybody understand what we're doing and the public understand there may be some things we want to change. This is our chance. Okay, there are no bylaws, surprise, surprise, in this particular agenda, so we go to correspondence for action. And the first item is from the Pacific Salmon Foundation for 2015. We have a letter dated October 20th from retired city employee Mr. Scott Kenny requesting council donate 4 paintings received from the former Clock Tower Gallery to the Pacific Salmon Foundation dinner auction, which is early next month. Councillor Washington, do you want to make that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the letter dated October 20, 2015 from Pacific Salmon Foundation requesting council to donate 4 paintings received from the former Clock Tower Gallery to the Pacific Salmon Foundation dinner auction be received and the request endorsed.
Is there a seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Is there discussion?
Can I ask where these paintings are coming from? Is this city property that we're donating for a foundation for the dinner?
They were, I can answer that. There were paintings that were left behind in the Clock Tower Gallery, and so they are the property of the city of Port Alberni, and they're being asked to donate them to this worthwhile fundraising opportunity. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. On the motion, then, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. We have a proclamation from the Vancouver Island and Coast Conservation Society. We have an email dated requesting that December the 11th, 2015 be proclaimed a day for our common future in Port Alberni. City Clerk, have we received this sort of request before from this organization?
Off the top of my head, Mr. Mayor, I can't recall.
Okay, thank you. So we need somebody prepared to make this motion from the Vancouver Island and Coast Conservation Society.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor. That the email dated October 13, 2015 from the Vancouver Island and Coast Conservation Society requesting that December 11th, 2015 be proclaimed as a day for our common future in Port Alberni be received and the date proclaimed as requested.
Seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. City Clerk, could you please review the informational correspondence for us?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, a few items this evening. The first, minutes of the June 3rd and September 2nd Alberni Valley Heritage Commission minutes of those meetings. Councillor Paulson provides a summary of his experience at the recent Union of British Columbia Municipalities annual conference. A letter from Coombs Country Candy. It's a copy of a letter regarding access to the old Nanaimo Highway. Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce provides a copy of their letter supporting Coombs Country Candy on the issue of access to their property and urging the Ministry of Transportation and the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District to ensure laws in place are respected and enforced. Minutes of the Air Quality Council meeting of September 24th are provided. Island Timberlands has provided an overview of their 2015 fire hazard abatement program, which will commence shortly and may take up to several weeks to complete based on weather conditions. Island Health has provided a news release encouraging residents to plan ahead and get their flu shot early. RCMP Pacific Region provides expenditures on the municipal policing agreement to September 30th, 2015. A letter from Smart Fueling expressing disappointment on the recent endorsement of a resolution at the Union of British Columbia Municipalities Convention. The minutes of July 9th and the September 3rd Food Security and Climate Change Committee meetings are provided, as well as the June 11th Seniors Advisory Committee minutes and the September 8th Youth Advisory Committee minutes.
I'll move that the informational correspondence item number 1 through 12 be received and filed.
Is there a seconder?
Second, and just one note is that the Youth Advisory minutes from August 11th are in there as well.
Thank you. And Councillor Washington?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 3, the Coombs Country Candy Highway Road access. Do we have any jurisdiction out there, or does that fall into Regional District and Department of Highways?
That's correct. It's Regional District Department of Highways. And there is a letter that has gone from the Regional District concerning this, or from the Board of the Regional District
Okay.
concerning this.
Good, so.
And so it's for our information.
We're like them, we're working on it? Yes. Okay.
It's a challenge, and they're obviously frustrated with the situation, and they like it addressed somehow, and we can provide support, but no direct influence, because it's not part of our...
Thank you, sir.
On the motion, all those in favor? Carried. I would point out to council that this is a great opportunity for you in terms of your individual reports. If you've got recommendations from the committees that you liaise with on behalf of council, that it's a good opportunity to mention that. It is important to get those recommendations for council out as soon as possible. We have a report from in camera. We have two items from in camera from July 27th. We had a motion that the Council for the City of Port Alberni accept the offer from Colin Evans, $165,000 plus all applicable taxes for the city-owned property at 4905 Cherry Creek Road. Environmental studies on the property have been completed to the potential purchaser's satisfaction, and he's now applied for rezoning to M1 Light Industrial. His application will be on the next Advisory Planning Committee agenda and will advance through a public process prior to Council's final consideration of the sale. And from September 14th, the city's proposing a call for proposals to develop a portion of the 68 acres of undeveloped city land-owned property between Westport Place and Golden Street that would do a number of things. One, help address the clear need for increased housing for seniors. We can form an opportunity then particularly for Rainbow Gardens to proceed with some of its hopes. We can address concerns and provide support for the existing Westport neighborhood, and we can also allow for residential growth. So a public meeting will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday, November 18th at Echo Center to review and discuss the proposed concept. There will be a notice in the newspaper. As well, notices will be mailed to all Westport residents and other adjacent residents on Golden Street and Georgia Road, because those are the most directly impacted by this decision. And an opportunity for public input, questions, and feedback will be provided. Which then brings us to council reports, and the first report is Mayor's report. First thing, next weekend, 2 a.m., November 1st, that's Fall Back Day. So remember, next weekend, right after you've had your Halloween extravaganza, remember to turn your clocks back an hour. I met with the Director General of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, an interesting meeting, council, and got to know a fair amount about Taipei and Taiwan. Just out of curiosity, you may be interested to know that Taiwan is approximately the same size as Vancouver Island, with 23 million people. I went to visited Langford with city manager and manager of economic development, as well as my business advisory council, or our business advisory council. I met with Mayor Stu Young and the West Shore Developers Association, learned lots of good information about how Langford is proceeding with its economic plans. Like most councillors, I was able to attend one of the EFAP lunches. This one was at CityWorks, and it was great lunch, great opportunity to interact and show appreciation for our CityWorks employees. Attended a reconciliation meeting at the Friendship Center. Good to spend a bit of time there, and actually great to get the appreciation from them in terms of their future plans and what council's done to assist with those plans. I attended the installation one evening for the new Kinsman executive. Turns out that the new president of Kinsman is an ex-student of mine, Jason Ferguson, so it was great to be there for that. Attended the meeting of the Alberni Learning Council, and that has grown by leaps and bounds in terms of participation. And there's so much going on locally in terms of learning opportunities and plans for learning that was great to see that, great to hear that. I was coach, quote unquote, at celebrity basketball last Friday, raising money for a number of great local worthy organizations, including the Breakfast Club at Alberni District Secondary School and Jericho Road. And it was also the final goodbye for Lefty Williams because he's heading off to Los Angeles. He's gone now. So it was his last thing, and it was a great event. Some wonderful basketball, and they spotted our local team by 70 points, and it was needed. It was good. They were very, very good. I had the honor of attending the Sons of Norway 85th anniversary in Port Alberni. 85 years. Their first building was on 3rd Avenue, and then they built their last building, Nordley Center, on Butte Street between 4th and 5th. And then that's been sold. But some of you may remember that was the center of bingo for Port Alberni for quite a number of years. But 85 years. And then yesterday I was at the Small Business Expo at Echo Center. And it was very well attended, and it was great to go and see it, and a great follow-up from what we did last Friday. And a heads up, Council, November 4th, 12:30 to 3:30 at Echo, there is a flu clinic. And if you can't make that one because you happen to be working and it gets in the way, the next one is November 19th from 4:30 to 7:30, also at Echo. So there's no excuse not to get poked. And that's my report, and I move acceptance of my report. And all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And I guess it falls to me to make the regional district report as well. A couple of quick things. The last regional district meeting, Transition Town was made a presentation, and they're looking to access a bit of extra space in the regional district office to store some of their brochures and other materials. There was a concern from a resident about the impact of drag racing on their area as well as on the Sandhill crane population. And the BC Fire Training Officers Association is making a request of the regional district for support because of a major upcoming conference to be held here in Port Alberni, May of 2016, just before our emergency preparedness exercise, so be a lot of work. And the ACRD is just about to enter into a relationship with the federal government for a $1.27 million lighting agreement at Long Beach Airport. And the ACRD has also agreed to support an application to host the 2017 Islands Agricultural Show here in Port Alberni. So that's a major event, takes a lot of effort, lots of organizing, and Mr. Deacon is going to be heavily involved in that, I am sure. So that's my report from the ACRD. I move acceptance of that report. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now, Councillor Washington, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. October 15th, the Salmon Festival had their final meeting of 2015. Notes that 1,588 Derby tickets were sold. Keep them in the black. Their Burke's Intertruck Award for the $1,000 after Derby draw was won by Joe Fatura of Port Alberni. An interesting note is of the major prize winners, Joe was from Fort Alberni, where the other winners every other day were all from out of town, and the first place winners. But it does say something for the attraction of the event. Looking forward to number 45, and they plan to meet probably February or March, depending on what's happening at the marina. As you know, there could be a construction zone by as early as next year, so we may have to find another place to play if we're under major construction there. October 20th, special meeting of Heritage Commission to discuss a collection policy. 21st, Parks and Recreation's EFAP Employee and Family Assistance Program. I was honored to represent council there at their luncheon. Some past employees in attendance, including Shirley Maxwell, so it was good to see her. They had 3 members that were awarded tenure, and notable Don Dunbar was awarded for 30 years of employment with the City Parks and Rec. October 24th, spoke at the Kiwanis Volunteer Dinner. They had approximately 60 volunteers that they fed. Again, another successful, their monies were up from last year. Barbecued and served over 4,000 pounds of salmon this year. And again, looking forward to 2016. Interesting note, the AV News was there, and Sonia did an interview with 3 generations of Winans, starting with Art, who started with us in the beginning, and his son Chris, and now his grandson Tim. So there should be an interesting story in this week's AV News. And that's my report, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
All my committees and such are this week and next week, so I don't have anything to report today.
Easy week. All right, Councillor Minions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the EFAP lunch for the City Hall employees. It was great to get out and actually meet some employees that I didn't know, and some past employees. I attended the Civic Affairs Committee for the Chamber, which is always good, but it was really interesting talking about just some new ways to address small thefts in some of the local businesses and how businesses can work together. We had our Youth Advisory Committee where we discussed kind of what our big project is going to be and which way we want to go with that. I had a great meeting with Sarah from the Air Quality Committee because I missed our last meeting, but good discussion around the backyard burn bylaw and how we can sort of work to make that an easy transition for everyone next year. I attended our rebranding meetings and business walks. Business walks were a really good experience. I really enjoyed doing that. I did the Uptown and Harbor Key area, and I was very pleasantly surprised by how the businesses rated their businesses in terms of how business was right now. We gave them the option of rating their business as poor, steady, or growing, and just about all of the businesses, I think we only had 3, and they were all in the morning, but we only had 3 who said that their businesses were poor. And I don't know how many we went to. It seemed like a lot, but every other one rated it as either steady or growing, and most growing. So it seemed like there was a real feel that business is really picking up in the Uptown. So it was nice to hear. And that is my report.
Thank you. And Councillor Sobe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October 15th, I was invited to attend the Uptown Merchants meeting, and it was very interesting. I like to drop in several times just to see what the Uptown is all, what they're up to and everything, and they're preparing for the Christmas festivities, and also even preparing for next summer, as into downtown activities and so forth. And I told them that we'd get cooperation from the city and anything we could do to help the tourists and all that to bring them in. On the 18th, I attended the John Paul II Catholic School. They're celebrating their 10th anniversary of the school there. Bishop Gary attended Ore Valley, so I welcomed him on behalf of the city. Also, I represented the city at the EFAP luncheon for the RCMP Municipal Staff Appreciation Luncheon, and that went well, and it was nice to visit the old stomping grounds and seeing some friends and staff. On October 23rd, I did the business walk. I already spoken on that, and again, I thank Mr. Deacon for having to put up with me all day. On the evening of that same day, I attended the Lefty Williams. I worked with him and his team, as in for the charity for the basketball event, and I was pretty much representing for proceeds for the Breakfast Club. As you know, I'm part of the Breakfast Club at the high school, so I just want to give a big shout out to Lefty and his family and what they have contributed to our community, which is a lot, and we thank them, and we wish them the best of luck for their endeavors in Los Angeles. I also attended a couple of nights ago at the Bread of Life. Represented the city there, and attendance was the MLA Scott Fraser for fundraising for the Bread of Life, and it was a great dining experience, and I learned a lesson not to put my name in too many silent auctions, because I got stuck at the end picking up a whole load of stuff today. But I thank the staff down there for inviting me, and it was all great. So that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to move acceptance of the reports?
I'll move for acceptance of this report. I'll need a second.
All right, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Then we're on, there's no new business, and this is now into question period. It's an opportunity for public and press to ask questions for Mayor and Council. Yes, sir. Please come forward. Yes, up to the lectern, please.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name's Chuck Byer. I'm at 3226 Fifth Avenue. We're practically neighbors. Just to put a little perspective on what was previously discussed, and I'll put it in terms of question since it's question period. Are you aware that the federal marijuana program, the medical marijuana program, was imposed on the government by the courts? It is so onerous that 90% of people that use the product cannot obtain it legally simply because they can't find a doctor to sign the forms. Those that do have permission won't use it because it doesn't address the way the product is marketed. Imagine having to buy your wine by mail order. That's pretty much what you're faced with. No consideration was put into good marketing. The program is in fact so onerous that the federal government was recently in court arguing that 10-year-old children with epilepsy had to smoke the product instead of using edibles. So that gives you some idea of what we're facing here. People such as myself, this federal election, Liberals, fought hard to defeat this law, and we won. And as soon as our designate's in, you're going to see some real change in this regard. I'd just like to impart that there's no more political benefit in persecuting sick people. You can put your hand up in the air and see the way the wind's going. And like Vancouver and Victoria, I think it'd be a good idea to approach this thing via regulation. Things are changing, and that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Mr. Anderson?
Neil Anderson, 8th Avenue. A couple questions. I'm going back to an issue that I talked about at length a few months ago. And I understand the new report for the management organization structure has been received and being considered at this time. Am I correct there?
That's right.
Yeah. So my questions are regarding the 2011 report. I understand there's 12 items that were adopted under that report by council at that time and passed on to this council, and 2 that were held pending a job evaluation review. So one of my questions is, how many, do you know at this point, how many of those 12 items were that were adopted were implemented?
I don't know the answer to that. But
okay, and that's fine. I don't mind it coming back in 2 weeks, but there was 12 items, if my memory serves correct, and there was 2 that said that they were adopted, but the implementation would be pending a job evaluation review, and that job evaluation review was to go go towards the writer of that report for them to review that. Was this done? Was there a job evaluation review done?
I'll have to find out for you. So we can report on that next meeting as well for
Yeah,
you.
that's fine. And my last question is simply, is there annual work job or performance evaluations done? This was actually another recommendation done by I think it was number 16. Is there an annual or a semi-annual performance evaluation done on city staff?
I doubt that it'd be all city staff, that it'd be semi-annual, but city manager, you
Or annual,
quick answer for that.
whatever.
So it's not a formal process, but there is a performance review ongoing, not a formal semi or annual process.
Well, how did it, what do you mean by
Sup-
ongoing?
Supervisors would monitor the performance of their people that report.
Yeah, so there's no official performance evaluation, because that serves a benefit to both the employees and the employer in many ways, which I won't get into. And my last question is, when is the public going to have access to a hard copy of the new report?
As soon as we've finished things related to personnel matters, and I don't know the exact date of that, but it shouldn't be that long.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right then, anybody else wish to address council? And a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.